When rescuers dragged Kenechukwu out, his suit was drenched in blood. His face was pale, his voice faint. The doctors fought for his life until dawn. By morning, the verdict fell like a hammer. His legs are gone. Both. We couldn't save them. Silence swallowed the hospital ward. Kenechukwu's world collapsed. He stared at his body wrapped in bandages, empty where his legs once were. His hands trembled as he tried to sit up. He screamed. He cursed the sky. He begged to wake up from a nightmare that refused to end. And beside him, Ngozi stood frozen. At first, her tears flowed. She held his hands, whispered, "We will get through this." But even in those words, her eyes shifted, already calculating, already weighing the cost of staying with a man who could no longer stand tall. In the evenings, their two children, Amara and Obina, clung to his father's bed, crying, asking, "Daddy, will you walk again?" Kene forced a smile, though his heart was ash. "I will try, my children. I will try." But behind them, Ngozi turned away, her lips pressed into a line. Days turned to weeks. The hospital bills mounted. Visitors who once filled the ward with flowers and laughter disappeared one by one. Even his business partners sent only texts. "Sorry, Chairman. May God strengthen you." Then silence. The house that once rang with parties now echoed with whispers. Kene, now in a wheelchair, returned home to a compound too large for his broken body. The man who once stood like a lion now sat small, staring at walls that mocked him with memories of power. One evening, as rain tapped against the windows, Ngozi stood in the doorway. Her bags were packed. Kene looked up from his chair, his voice trembling. "Ngozi, where are you going?" She hissed, adjusting her wig. "Kene, love cannot carry me forever. I did not marry a man to push him around in a chair. You cannot provide anymore. You cannot even stand. What future is this?" Kene's heart cracked open. He stretched his hands toward her, pleading, "Ngozi, please, remember our children. Don't abandon me now. This is when I need you most." But her eyes were already gone. She snatched her hands away. "Another man is waiting for me, a man who still walks, a man who still has strength." The children screamed, "Mommy, don't go!" They clung to her wrapper, but she pushed them aside. And that night, with the roar of another man's car waiting at the gate, Ngozi stepped out without looking back. The door closed. The children sobbed in their father's arms. And in that moment, Kene realized the cruelest truth of all. His legs were gone, and so was his wife. Morning light crept slowly through the curtains, but for Kenechukwu, the world was still night. His once proud home in Ikeja felt like a prison now. Every corner mocked him with memories of who he used to be. The leathered chairs in the living room, bought from Italy. The chandelier above, imported from France. The marbled tiles, polished, smooth, expensive. All these things sparkled like trophies of his former life, yet they offered no comfort to a man trapped in a wheelchair. Every sound carried sorrow. The silence after Ngozi left was heavier than any stone. Each day was a battle. At dawn, he woke to the reality of his broken body. No more morning jogs, no more stepping into his Prado with confidence, no more striding into boardrooms where men once rose at his arrival. Instead, he rolled himself to the bathroom, struggling with tasks he once did without thought. Even neighbors whispered, "That's the man who lost everything. His wife has left him already. Hey, see how pride can fall." Once they bowed before him, now they pitied or mocked. The final blow came weeks later. A letter arrived from the bank. Red stamps screamed foreclosure. His accounts were drained. His company, already bleeding from his absence, had crumbled. Trucks repossessed, warehouses seized, partners pulled out one after the other. The empire he built brick by brick was gone. When he read the letter, his hand shook so violently the paper fell to the floor. He bent to pick it up, but his wheelchair jammed against the carpet. Rage surged through him. He slammed his fists on the table. "Why me? God, why me?" But no answer came. That evening, Amara and Obina crawled into his lap, their small arms wrapped around his neck, tears wetting his shirt. "Daddy, we don't need big house. We don't need car. Just don't leave us." His throat tightened. He forced a smile. "I will not leave you. Even if the whole world abandons us, I am here." Still, when they slept, he wheeled himself into the sitting room, turned off the lights, and sobbed like a child. Meanwhile, in another corner of Lagos, Ngozie's laughter echoed at a rooftop party. She wore a glittering gown, her makeup flawless, her heels sharp against the tiles. By her side, Chief Adewale draped his arm over her shoulders. Waiters carried trays of champagne. Musicians sang into the night. Cameras flashed. On Instagram, she posted, "New beginnings, God has been faithful." Her followers showered likes. None knew the husband she abandoned sat hungry with his children. Two worlds. One man swallowed by darkness, one woman dancing in borrowed light. But destiny is patient. That night, as rain poured again on Ikeja rooftops, Kene whispered into the silence, "I am broken. I am weak. But for my children, I will rise again." It was only a whisper, but it planted a seed. The sun rose over Lagos, but in Kennechukwu's compound, the morning felt heavy as stone. There was no aroma of breakfast, no sound of clinking plates like before. Once, housemaids served tea in porcelain cups, cooks bustled in the kitchen, and drivers honked the horn by the gate. But now, silence. The cupboards were empty, and the gas cylinder had long run out. Amara, barefoot, carried a plastic bowl down the street to beg the neighbor's maid for a little gari. The girl stared at her with pity, shook her head, and whispered, "Madame said I shouldn't give you anything and again. She said your father used to boast too much." Amara's cheeks burned with shame. She walked back home slowly, clutching only water in her bowl. Inside, Kene sat in his wheelchair, his head bowed. He watched his daughter's small frame enter the gate. She tried to smile, but he could see the truth in her eyes. "No gari today?" he asked softly. She shook her head. Obina tugged at his father's shirt. "Daddy, I'm hungry." His small voice cracked Kene's heart. The man who once fed hundreds at parties now could not feed his own children. He clenched his fists, his knuckles white. He rolled his chair back and forth, as though movement would erase the pain. "God, is this my punishment?" he whispered. Days blurred into nights. Bills piled on the table like mountains. The power company cut electricity. The compound sank into darkness each evening with only a small lantern flickering. Kene tried to find work, but who would hire a man without legs? His former partners avoided his calls. Old friends crossed the road when they saw him coming. At the church, people whispered. At the market, women shook their heads. "Naso life be. Yesterday lion, today nothing." One afternoon, determined not to watch his children starve, Kene wheeled himself out of the compound. He pushed through the dusty streets, sweat soaking his shirt, until he reached the roadside. There, trembling, he placed a small box on his lap with a handwritten sign, "Recharge cards for sale." He sat there for hours under the blazing sun. Cars zoomed past, some slowed, but when they saw him, they frowned. A man in a Jeep laughed loudly. "Ah, is that not Kene Chairman? See life." The car roared away, leaving dust in his face. Still, Kene stayed. A few kind souls bought from him. By evening, he had only a few hundred naira. But when he rolled home, his children ran to meet him. "Daddy, did you bring something?" He raised a small nylon bag, bread, and one sachet of milk. Their faces lit up as if he carried treasure. That night, they ate together by lantern light. The bread was dry, the milk watery, but they laughed between bites. And when the children slept, Kene sat by their bed, watching them breathe. Tears rolled down his cheeks. They deserve more. They will have more. I swear by heaven, no matter how low I have fallen, I will rise for them. Meanwhile, in Victoria Island, under golden chandeliers, Ngozi clinked wine glasses with Chief Adewale. She wore Italian heels, her laughter echoing through the banquet hall. When her friends asked about her husband, she waved dismissively. He will manage. My children are fine. God has blessed me with better. Two worlds again. One built on pain, the other on pleasure. But in pain, a seed of strength was slowly taking root. The Harmattan wind swept through Lagos that morning, dry and sharp. Dust coated every roadside, and hawkers shouted with cracked voices. In his wheelchair, Kene pushed himself forward, his arms trembling from weakness. He had been sitting at the bus stop since dawn, recharge cards spread across a small tray on his lap. Hours passed. Few bought, most ignored him, some sneered. A group of young men walked by, laughing. Is this not Kene the big man? See how he has fallen. God forbid bad thing. Their laughter stabbed him, but he kept his head low. Around noon, as the sun beat down, a shadow fell across his tray. Kene, a deep voice asked. Kene looked up. For a moment, his heart stopped. Standing there was Ifeanyi, an old friend from university days, one who had once attended Kene's house parties, ate from his table, borrowed money freely. Ifeanyi was now a contractor, his shirt crisp, his shoes shining. Shame rushed through him like fire. He wanted to hide his face, to roll away, but his tray of recharge cards betrayed him. Ifeanyi, he muttered, barely audible. The man's eyes softened. He bent down, placing a hand on Kene's shoulder. My brother, is this what life has done to you? Kene tried to smile, though his lips shook. Life took my legs, and everything else followed. For a long moment, Ifeanyi was silent. Then he nodded slowly. Listen, I have a site in Agege. I need someone I can trust to oversee the laborers. The pay is not much, but it's steady. Can you handle it? Kene's heart skipped, his chest tightened. He looked down at his useless legs, then back at his friend. I have no legs, Ifeanyi, but I still have hands, and I still have sense. I will not fail you. Ifeanyi gripped his shoulder harder. That's the Kene I know. Come tomorrow, we'll start. When his friend drove away, Kene sat frozen for a moment. Then tears spilled down his face. For the first time in months, the sky seemed brighter. That evening, he returned home with bread in one hand and suya wrapped in paper in the other. The children ran to him, eyes wide. Daddy, you bought meat, Obena squealed. Yes, Kene laughed, though his voice broke. Today, we eat like kings. They spread the food on the small wooden table. The meat was little, but the joy was plenty. The children clapped, laughed, and chewed noisily. Even the walls of the house seemed to echo with new life. When they were done, Amara hugged him tightly. Daddy, you are the best. That night, as the children slept, Kene wheeled himself to the veranda. He looked up at the stars and whispered, This is just the beginning. God, give me strength. I will build again. Not for myself, for them. Far away, in a glittering hall at Eco Hotel, Ngozi clinked her glass of champagne. Chief Adewale whispered into her ear, but his phone kept buzzing. She frowned. He laughed and walked out to answer it. Hours later, he returned smelling of another woman's perfume. Ngozi's smile faltered, but pride sealed her lips. Two paths were now set. One man crawling out of darkness step by step. One woman dancing in light that was already beginning to flicker. At dawn, Kene rolled into the dusty compound of the construction site in Agege. Laborers with shovels and cement bags paused, staring at the man in a wheelchair. Some whispered, some laughed. "Now who be this?" one asked. Another sneered. "How this one go manage us? Him no even get leg?" But when Kene spoke, his voice carried a weight they could not ignore. "Gentlemen, I may not have legs, but I still have eyes. I will see who works and who cheats. I still have hands. I will write down everything. And I still have a mind. That nobody can take away." The murmurs faded. The men went back to work. Day after day, under the hot sun, Kene sat in his chair, guiding, recording, instructing. He noticed every detail: a laborer who tried to steal cement, a worker who pretended to be sick, a truck that arrived late. Nothing escaped him. Slowly, respect replaced laughter. They began to call him Oga Kene. At night, he wheeled himself home with dusty clothes but a smile on his face. Amara and Obino waited eagerly at the gate. He always carried something small: roasted plantain, a loaf of bread, sometimes even fish. To them, it felt like a feast. One evening, as Amara ate with both hands, she grinned. "Daddy, you're strong, even without legs." Kene's chest tightened. He kissed her forehead. "No, my daughter, we are strong, because we are together." Meanwhile, across the city, in a mansion with marble floors and chandeliers, Ngozi reclined on a leather couch, sipping wine. Her nails gleamed, her gown sparkled. Chief Adewale's laughter thundered from the dining hall as he hosted businessmen. Ngozi smiled on cue, greeting guests, showing off her jewelry. On Instagram, her photos shone brighter than diamonds. But behind the screen, her smile often cracked. Late at night, when parties ended, Chief Adewale vanished into other rooms or out into the night. His phone buzzed endlessly. He laughed at messages she was never allowed to read. When she asked questions, he waved his hand. "Ngozi, relax. Just enjoy. Don't disturb me." One night, she gathered courage. "Adewale, people are talking. They say you were at Quillox with another woman." "And so what? Do you think you are the only woman in Lagos? If you don't like it, you can leave. But remember, without me, you are nothing." Her heart froze. She remembered Kene's gentle voice, the way he once begged her to stay, the way he shared fish with the children under candlelight. For a moment, regret pricked her chest, but pride held her tongue. Instead, she painted her lips red, fixed her wig, and walked back into the party with a smile. Her friends clapped at her outfit. "Ngozi, you are glowing." She laughed, but her laughter sounded hollow even to herself. Far away, in a dusty site in Agege, Kene received his first month's pay. He held the brown envelope in his trembling hands, tears filling his eyes. That night, he bought stew with real chicken. The children danced around the small kitchen as the aroma filled the house. They ate with joy, licking their fingers, laughing until they fell asleep on his lap. Two worlds again. One man rising slowly from dust. One woman sinking quietly behind gold. The tide was beginning to turn. The morning sun painted Agege in shades of dust and sweat. Trucks rumbled through the gate of the construction site. Men shouted, and the clang of metal echoed like a heartbeat. In the middle of it all sat Kene, his wheelchair parked under a wooden canopy, his pen scratching across a ledger. Weeks had passed since he first began. At first, laborers laughed, whispering, "What can a legless man do?" But now their whispers had turned to respect. When Kene spoke, they listened. When he pointed out mistakes, they corrected them. His sharp eyes caught everything. A bag of cement missing, a truckload arriving late, a lazy worker hiding behind stacks of blocks. Nothing escaped him. Soon, word spread. That man in a wheelchair, He is more reliable than 3 supervisors. One afternoon, the site owner, a wealthy businessman, visited unexpectedly. He was a tall man in a bata flanked by 2 aides. Workers scrambled, dusting themselves and greeting him. Kene rolled forward, bowing slightly from his chair. "Oga, good afternoon." He squinted. "You are Kene, right? The one Ifeanyi recommended?" "Yes, sir." "I hear you are strict. Honest. The workers fear you more than they fear the foreman. Is it true?" Kene smiled faintly. "Sir, I only do my duty. I may have lost my legs, but not my eyes and not my integrity." The man chuckled. "Good answer. From today, I want you to oversee all 3 sections of this site. Salary will increase. Don't disappoint me." Tears pricked Kene's eyes, but he held them back. He nodded firmly. "I will not fail you, sir." That evening, he returned home carrying a pot of stew and 2 full loaves of bread. Amara and Obina squealed with joy, dancing around the table as he served them. For the first time in months, they ate until their bellies were full. After dinner, Amara hugged her father tightly. "Daddy, you're strong, even without legs." Kene's chest sank deeper. "By God's grace, my daughter, we all will rise together." Meanwhile, in Victoria Island, Ngozi sat on a velvet chair inside a spa, her feet dipped in warm water, attendants massaging her shoulders. She scrolled through Instagram, her smile frozen. Chief Adewale had been tagged in photos from a club the previous night, with another woman, younger, slimmer, draped in diamonds. Her hand trembled as she zoomed into the pictures. The comments below cut her like knives. "Now wow, see Adewale with his new babe. Where is his madame? Men don't stay in one place." When she confronted him that night, her voice shook. "Adewale, people are laughing at me. Who is that girl?" He laughed, pouring himself whiskey. "Ngozi, relax. Do you think you're the only one? Enjoy what you have while it lasts." Her chest tightened. She wanted to scream, but her love once had with Kene, but pride chained her tongue. Instead, she adjusted her gown. 2 lives moved forward. One man slowly, painfully rising with dignity. One woman glittering in public, but rotting in private. And though neither knew it, the day was coming when their paths would cross again. The classroom buzzed with chatter as students prepared for the annual inter-school debate. Teachers shuffled papers, parents filled the back rows, and the air smelt of chalk and excitement. On stage stood Amara, her braids neatly tied with ribbons, her voice steady as she spoke. "True success is not measured by what we wear or what we drive, but by the values we live by. A man without legs can still stand taller than a man without integrity." The hall erupted in applause. Judges nodded, impressed. When the results were announced, Amara's name rang out as first prize winner. She held the small golden plaque with trembling hands, her eyes searching the crowd. At the back of the hall sat Kene in his wheelchair, clapping until his palms turned red, tears spilling freely. Later that week, Obina stood proudly in his classroom as his teacher announced, "This boy has scored the highest in mathematics for the whole school." His classmates gasped, clapped, and the teacher patted his back. That evening, both children ran home with certificates in their hands, shouting, "Daddy, Daddy, look!" Kene gathered them into his arms, his heart swelling with pride. He kissed their foreheads, whispering, "You are my trophies. You are my future. You are the reason I will never give up." That night, the 3 of them shared beans and yam under the faint glow of a lantern. The food was simple, but the laughter was rich. As the children drifted to sleep, Kene watched them closely. His tears returned, but this time they were tears of gratitude. "God," he prayed softly, "poverty will not bury their light. No matter how hard I must work, they will shine brighter than me." Far away in Akoi, Ngozi's world was beginning to crack. The same friends who once flooded her posts now barely responded. She tapped her nails against the marble table, her wine glass untouched. She thought of her children, the ones she had left behind in Ikeja. For the first time, a wave of emptiness washed over her. But pride, as always, held her captive. She refused to call. She refused to return. Instead, she plastered on a smile for the world, even as loneliness wrapped itself around her like chains. Two sides of Lagos told two different stories. A man in rags raising children whose brilliance lit up the darkness. A woman in diamonds trapped in a glittering cage of emptiness. Destiny was drawing its lines. It was a rainy afternoon in Ikeja. Thunder rolled in the distance, and raindrops splashed against the rusted gate of Kene's new compound. By now, his life had changed. The steady job at the site had grown into contracts, and the small gravel business he started on weekends was gathering strength. His children were teenagers, walking tall in neat uniforms. Inside the house, the air smelled of freshly cooked stew. The children laughed as they set the table. Kene sat in his chair, tired but content, his eyes shining with gratitude. For years of pain, they were finally tasting a measure of peace. Then a knock echoed at the gate. Amara ran to open it, but when she pulled the metal latch, her breath caught in her throat. Standing there was Ngozi. Her wig clung to her head, soaked and crooked. Her gown, once glamorous, was now faded. The rain had washed her makeup into dark streams down her face. Her eyes were swollen from weeping. She looked nothing like the diamond-dripping woman who once walked out with pride. "Mommy?" Amara gasped, her voice caught between shock and anger. Ngozi staggered inside, her body trembling. The children froze, staring. Obina's fists clenched. He was old enough now to remember the night she abandoned them, the screams that haunted their childhood. Kene wheeled himself forward slowly. When his eyes met Ngozi's, his chest tightened. Memories flooded back. Her laughter at his side when wealth was plenty, her cold words when he lost his legs, her heels clicking away as the children screamed for her to stay. Her voice broke the silence. "Kene, please, forgive me. Take me back. I was blind. I was foolish. I have nothing left." She fell to her knees, her hands stretched out, clutching his wheelchair. Rain dripped from her hair onto the tiled floor. The children exchanged glances. Amara's eyes burned with unshed tears, but her voice was sharp. "Daddy, don't do it. She left us when we needed her most. You raised us. You are enough." Ngozi turned desperately to her children. "Amara, Obina, my babies, please. I was lost. I was deceived. Forgive me. Let me come home." But they turned their faces away. Obina muttered bitterly, "You are not our home. Daddy is our home." The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the pounding rain outside. Kene's lips trembled, his heart warred with itself, the wound of betrayal against the call of mercy. Finally, he spoke, his voice soft but steady. "Ngozi, I forgive you. For my own peace, I forgive, but I cannot take you back. The woman I married died the day you walked away. Go in peace. May God have mercy on you." Ngozi collapsed fully on the wet floor, her sobs echoing through the house. The children turned away, retreating into the kitchen, their shoulders shaking. Kene sat in silence, staring at the broken woman at his feet. His chest was heavy with sorrow, but also with relief. He had chosen dignity. He had chosen peace. That night, as the rain poured endlessly, Ngozi left the compound, alone, her shadow swallowed by the storm. And in the house, Kene held his children close, whispering, "We are enough. We will always be enough." The months that followed dragged Ngozi through shadows she never imagined. Chief Adewale, The man she abandoned her family for had long grown cold. His mansion that once sparkled with light and laughter now felt like a prison. He rarely came home, and when he did, his words cut sharper than knives. "Woman, stop disturbing me," he snapped one evening when she tried to ask where he had been. "I gave you comfort when you needed it. Now another woman gives me joy. Learn to accept your place." Her chest tightened. She wanted to scream, but all she managed was a whisper. "Adiwale, I left everything for you, my children, my husband, and this is what you give me?" He laughed cruelly, pouring himself another glass of whiskey. "You left them not for me, but for money, and money doesn't love anyone." That night, he packed a small bag and left. Days stretched into weeks, and Ngozi realized he wasn't coming back. His guards barely acknowledged her anymore, and the young woman who had replaced her had already begun flaunting pictures online. Her friends, the same ones who once toasted her at parties and clapped at her gowns, drifted away. When she called, they were busy. When she begged for visits, they gave excuses. Instagram, once her stage of glory, grew quiet. Her posts gathered dust, likes dropping from hundreds to a handful. Alone in the vast mansion, Ngozi's laughter finally died. Then sickness struck. It began with constant coughs, weakness in her bones, nights without sleep. At first, she ignored it, painting her face, forcing herself to spa appointments, but soon her body betrayed her. Completely. Her cheeks sank, her skin lost its glow, her hands trembled when she tried to lift a spoon. She was admitted to a hospital. The once proud woman now lay on a narrow bed wrapped in faded sheets, machines beeping softly beside her. No visitors came, no flowers, no friends. One afternoon, as the nurse wiped her forehead, Ngozi whispered, "Please, tell my children, tell Kene, I am sorry." Tears rolled down her cheeks, smudging the remnants of her mascara. "I thought money was everything. I thought beauty would last forever. But I was wrong. So wrong." Her voice broke into sobs. The nurse patted her hand gently, but said nothing. Her last days were filled with regret. She replayed the night she walked away from Kene, her children's screams echoing in her ears. She remembered the cold words she had spoken, "I did not marry you to suffer." Now she was the one left to suffer alone. And then, one rainy morning, her breath grew shallow. Her lips trembled with final words. "God, forgive me. Tell them I am sorry." With tears streaking down her face, Ngozi exhaled her last. No husband by her side, no children to hold her hand, only regret to keep her company. The woman who once wore diamonds died with nothing but ashes in her heart. The news spread quietly at first. By evening it reached Kene's home in Ikeja. He sat in the living room, his wheelchair parked near the window, when the knock came. A neighbor entered gently, eyes downcast. "Kene, it's about your wife. She died this morning." For a long moment, silence swallowed the room. Amara and Obina froze, their school bags still slung across their shoulders. The air grew heavy, as if the walls themselves mourned. Obina clenched his fists. He was old enough now to remember the night she abandoned them, the screams that haunted their childhood. Kene wheeled himself forward slowly, gathering his children into his arms. His voice was low but steady. "Ngozi, I forgive you. For my own peace, I forgive. But you may see now why I should not take you back." She made her choices, and she has paid a terrible price. Learn from this. The children wept softly against his chest, their small shoulders shaking. That evening, the three of them lit a candle. They prayed for Ngozi's soul, asking God to grant her mercy. There were no diamonds, no cameras, no parties, just a flickering flame, tears, and a family holding on to one another. When the prayer ended, Kene turned to his children, his eyes glistening. Listen to me, Amara, Obina. Never value money above love. Never abandon those who stand with you in the storm. Wealth will fade, beauty will fade, but character will carry you to the end. The children nodded solemnly. Years passed. Kene's gravel business grew into something larger, partnering with developers across Lagos. Though his legs never returned, his dignity did. He became known not for the empire he lost, but for the courage with which he rebuilt his life. People pointed at him in admiration. That man has no legs, yet he stands taller than most. Amara and Obina flourished. Their brilliance opened doors to scholarships. They carried themselves with quiet strength, always remembering the lessons their father had etched into their souls. At home, the house echoed with laughter again, not the empty laughter of parties and strangers, but the deep, rich joy of family, bound together by loyalty, sacrifice, and love. Sometimes, on rainy nights, when the thunder rolled, Kene wheeled himself to the veranda and whispered to the sky, "I lost everything once, but I gained something greater. I gained the proof that love survives the fire." And as the Lagos sun rose over the city each morning, neighbors looked to his compound and remembered one truth. A man may lose his wealth, a man may lose his legs, but if he does not lose his spirit, he has lost nothing at all.